Hi everybody, it's You Had to Ask, the show where I answer your questions, and my first question this week comes from Requiem Fear, who asks, sorry if this has been answered in previous videos, but what is your opinion on the feminist notion of patriarchy? I personally don't think it exists in the modern Western world, but it's a different case in the Middle East and some Eastern Orthodox countries, i.e. the former USSR. Well, I think it depends on what you mean by patriarchy. If you're only defining patriarchy as at the highest level of society and government, then I think you could make the argument that we don't have a patriarchal society here in the U.S. or in the Western world. And certainly we're much better off in that way compared to the places you mentioned in your question. I mean, we're certainly not as anti-woman as the fundamentalist Islamic governments. We're certainly not as anti-woman as, say, for instance, the government in China, and indeed the culture in China, where the birth of a girl is seen as like a tragedy, as you know, something to be mourned or to be hoped that won't happen. But that doesn't mean that we don't have patriarchy here in the West, here in the U.S. Don't forget, it doesn't have to be imposed by government. I mean, yes, women in the United States have equal political rights. They have the right to vote. They have the right to seek office. Legally, they are considered equal with men. There's not that type of patriarchy. I mean, there have been great strides made in women in politics and in various forms of leadership, but there's still not really anything close to parity with men. Men are still dominant over women in those areas. And don't forget also about the influence of religion. I mean, religion, Christianity may not be as patriarchal, may not be as harshly patriarchal as Islam, for instance, but it is still an explicitly patriarchal religion. And when men and women get married in a Christian ceremony in this country, and in other countries as well where they get married in a Christian ceremony, they are often told by the minister marrying them that it's the wife's role to support the husband emotionally, to keep the home, to cook the meals, to raise the children. This is a very patriarchal attitude, and it is extremely prevalent in the United States to this day. It's a matter of scale, it's a matter of degree to me. We're not as patriarchal as we used to be, we're not as patriarchal as other places in the world, but I am not willing to say that patriarchy just doesn't exist in our culture. I think that's far too optimistic and far too short-sighted, and it encourages people to just sort of assume, the same way we often do with racism, that the problem has been solved, and it hasn't. HTML error. I can't help myself staying shut when I hear the shit talk of my and my wife's family. They are both Catholics. I always promise myself I won't get into a discussion with irrational, close-minded, brainwashed people, but I always lose to myself by jumping into the discussions. The godless and blind watchmaker, must read both, are just so clear that I can't believe these people still believe in fairies. Have you been through situations like this, and if so, how do you react to them? I have fundamentalist Christians in my family, both in my biological family on my mother's side, and also just in my wife's family, the family that I married into. And most of them are lovely people, and we get along great. But yeah, I do often have to bite my tongue when we're at family functions and they start talking about religious stuff, because I find their religious views to be absolutely abhorrent. I mean, and I have found the best way to deal with it is just to keep your mouth shut. You learn when you talk with people, when you engage with religious folks, the more you do it and the more different people you talk with, the more you start to understand who is interested and capable of having a conversation with you about things, and who it's just not worth talking to about religious stuff. I mean, some people are open to it. Some people, like Matthew 4:19, the guy who I recently appeared on a Google Hangout with, who made the Why Become an Atheist video, very much a Christian, very much a completely committed, convicted, very sincere Christian, but able to have a reasonable conversation. Yes, some of the things he says are apologist boilerplate, like he just read it right out of a Josh McDowell book. but he's willing to have a conversation, to hear the other side, to listen to questions, to think about things. There are many, many Christians, unfortunately, who may have beliefs very similar to his, but whose attitudes are exactly the opposite, who are completely closed-minded, who are not interested in hearing what a non-Christian has to say, who are not interested in having a conversation, or even really in having an argument. And if with someone like that, if you have to talk to them, it's better to talk about other stuff. You can always find other stuff to talk about. You can always talk about baseball, talk about movies, talk about politics, talk about whatever. Talk about the meal you're eating right now. Talk about anything. Talk about your kids. Talk about your family. Just don't talk about religion, because it's probably not worth it. Patrick Dodds, Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, and the original two Bill and Ted writers are trying to get a third Bill and Ted movie off the ground. Galaxy Quest's Dean Parisot is rumored to direct. Could this work with both Reeves and Winter now middle-aged if it's played from the angle of them coping with middle age? Yeah, it could certainly work. I didn't think that Clerks 2 was going to be any good, and it was a lot better than I thought it would be. And that's a similar sort of situation, sort of returning to the characters after a long, long hiatus, and the characters have sort of aged out of the type of people that they were in the original movie. But if the sequel acknowledges the passage of time and shows us the people as they are now, you know, acknowledges that they've aged and shows them to us dealing with that situation. I mean, it could be, but then again, I'm of the opinion that pretty much any movie can be good, hypothetically, if its material is approached in the right way, and if it's made by the right filmmaker with the right cast and the right crew. I don't think there's any such thing as a subject or a topic or a story or a premise or whatever that just could never make a good movie. I think it's a matter of matching the right material with the right filmmakers. So yes, the third Bill and Ted movie, if it ever happens, could hypothetically actually be a good movie. Now, will it be? I have no idea. I'm on the fence as to whether the first two Bill and Ted movies are that good, to be honest. I don't think they're horrible, but they're certainly not among my favorites. But yeah, the third one could be good. Sure it could. Hypothetically, it could. Anything is possible. Gurin Prime, Steve, do you like any animes? If so, could you please name a couple? If not, please don't be rude about it. A lot of people are. Anime has been a huge part of my life since I was a little kid, and my anime heroes are as close to my heart as your comic heroes are to your heart. There have been some anime films that I really love. I think I mentioned in videos in the past. I love Grave of the Fireflies. I love Princess Mononoke. I thought Spirited Away was good. And there's a wonderful anime film from the late 80s about the space program of like a fictional country called Wings of Oniamas that is just wonderful. It's one of my favorite animated films. And as far as TV series, I don't have a lot of exposure. I haven't watched a lot of anime TV shows. Most of the really popular anime shows here in the U.S., I either haven't seen at all or I've seen maybe one or two episodes of them. But I did see the entire series of Cowboy Bebop. My ex-girlfriend at the time, about maybe 10, 12 years ago, was like a big anime fan, and she showed me Cowboy Bebop, and I thought that was splendid. I thought it was just awesome. John the Great, I recently had a new brother who will start his education in about 3 years. As an anti-theist living in a Catholic family, should I stand by and do nothing while his brain is washed with Iron Age myths? No, you don't have to stand by and do nothing. What you can do is, as he gets old enough to sort of understand these concepts, you can just share with him what you believe and share with him the reasons you believe it. You don't have to be overbearing about it. You don't have to sort of try to usurp the role of your parents or his teachers in educating your young brother, but just share with him what you believe. If he's taught something that you don't think is true, just share with him why you don't think it's true. You can do it that way. And then when he gets old enough to actually be able to hold some sort of opinion of his own about these things, he'll have your input, and hopefully you'll have a good influence on him in that way. Be the change. You are a part of the Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris movement that wants to eradicate religion. Aren't you a proud supporter and nearly unquestioning member of the most insidious religion in the world, statism? Statism is not a religion. Statism, I suppose you could call it a political philosophy. And one of the things that I think people, and forgive me if I'm being presumptuous, but people like you do when you refer to statism in those really dark, sinister, foreboding terms is you try to equate statism with totalitarianism. You call someone a statist, and the implication is that they are a totalitarian. And that's offensive and that's ignorant. I am a statist in the sense that I am not an anarchist. I'm a statist in the sense I think there should be a state, there should be a government, and that government should take a role in the society that it governs. But I am not a statist in the sense that I think you are implying. I'm not a statist in the sense that I wish the Soviet Union was still around so I could move there or anything like that. I am a statist in the sense that I am not an anarchist, statism being the opposite of anarchy. And I'm also not a libertarian. I believe the government has a very important role to play in society, in the economy, etc. I don't identify as a statist. I suppose technically I am a statist in a sense, but that's not how I identify myself. And again, I just think it's really dishonest of you to call it a religion and to imply with your usage of the term, calling it religious, writing it in all caps like that, throwing it around like an epithet to suggest that it's synonymous with totalitarianism. It's not. Mark Weaver, as a follow-up question to Firefly 4F4's question, what movie were you expecting to be shit but actually enjoyed? I wasn't expecting a whole lot of the first Harry Potter movie before I saw it, and I was very pleasantly surprised by that. And Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, I wasn't expecting anything special from, and I was very pleased with that. I thought Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man was great. And you know what? I could even say it about The Dark Knight, because I was not happy with Batman Begins. I still don't think Batman Begins is that great of a movie, and The Dark Knight just blew me away. I went into The Dark Knight not expecting anything particularly special at all, and it wound up being the best Batman movie ever made. So that would definitely be an example of getting more than I expected when I walked into the theater. Radical Bacon, what makes a director good? Can a movie be good despite a bad or mediocre director? It's hard to define what makes a director good, because different directors are good for different reasons. I mean, Stanley Kubrick and Charlie Chaplin, I would say both were great directors, but for completely different reasons. I mean, Chaplin had a great sensitivity to performance and to pathos, whereas Kubrick was much more interested in technique and in style and camera movement and sort of dealing with broader themes, was a much colder director in a sense. It depends on the director. I think in general, the same thing that makes someone a good writer, knowing what you want to accomplish and having the skills to do it and having the confidence to do it. Are there good films made by bad or mediocre directors? Absolutely. It's very possible for a movie to be to be good, even if it's helmed by a mediocre director. Now, I say that because there have been many instances of generally mediocre directors who have had, it turns out they have one or two really good films in them. It's really difficult for a film that is badly directed to be good. I can't think of any instances of that where like a very badly directed film turned out to be a good movie, because the direction is just so important to a film. I mean, the director is the guy who determines, or the girl, there I am being sexist. See, patriarchy does still exist. The director is the person who determines what the audience sees and when they see it and how they see it. So a badly directed movie that's a really difficult obstacle to get through. I mean, I guess I could say Kevin Smith's good movies fit that category. I mean, he's not a great director. He's a workmanlike sort of journeyman director. He's not a very talented filmmaker, but he is a clever enough writer and has enough sincerity and passion in his work that in his better films that comes through the sort of shitty direction. And there are shitty directors. I'm not a big fan of Chris Columbus as a director, and yet I just mentioned in a previous question that I really liked his first Harry Potter movie. I like both of his Harry Potter movies. He directed Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I think those are both really, really good movies. But in general, I think Chris Columbus is kind of a shitty director. Claude Polygonus, could you answer numbers 3 through 5 of the 5 most consequential questions in life found in I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist? I would like to hear from your atheist perspective. Number 3, why are we here? Number 4, how should we live and why should we live that way? And number 5, where are we going? Also, as a freshman in college, I currently lack the knowledge on how to check the accuracy of information presented and the credibility of a source. Do you know of any resources that might be of use to me? To take that last question first, Claude, the only thing I can tell you is if you're unsure of the trustworthiness of a source, the credibility of a source, the only thing you can really do is to go to another source. If you find something, if you find a source making a certain claim that seems funny to you, you need to find other sources that back that claim up. You need multiple sources, and you should do that anyway. Multiple sources, that's why when you write a paper in college, your professor requires you to use a certain number of sources to give your paper credibility. So you as the writer can be assured that the information that you're citing and the claims that you're making can be backed up, are actually true. Multiple sources is very important. So there's not really one single resource I can point you to. Just the practice of looking for multiple sources, looking for confirmation in multiple sources is really important. As for the questions, number 3, why are we here? That is an existential question to which there is not a clear, definitive answer. It differs for everybody. I mean, if you want the literal answer, we're here because of a 13 billion year process that began at the Big Bang, has worked its way to this very day, and one of the many results of that process, which is in fact made up of countless other much smaller processes, is us. We're here because we are a product of the universe, because we are a part of the universe. That's why we're here. We don't understand everything about it. We don't understand the cause of everything. We don't understand where everything came from or why it's here in just a causal sense. And it seems like there isn't a higher purpose. There isn't like a big sort of overarching spiritual reason why we're here. So we have to work that out for ourselves. Why are you here? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. Why are you here? What makes you get up in the morning? What makes you want to go out and do things? There's no set answer to that. How should we live is the same thing. It's the same question. How should we live? No one's going to tell you how to live. You have to decide for yourself. Even though when you're a child, your parents will tell you how to behave and will tell you how to be polite and, how to say please and thank you and all those things, how to treat other people, be kind to people, etc. Eventually, you have to work out for yourself why those things are important, why you accept those as good behaviors. Why is it important to be kind to people? Why is it important not to be dishonest? Why is it important to respect the rights of others? I think it has something to do with empathy. I think it has something to do with wanting to be treated a certain way by others, and therefore you treat others in that way. I think that's a big part of it. But again, there's no set answer. Morality is something that we create to sort of help us answer those questions. And it's something that we create both as individuals and more significantly as cultures. There are moral consensuses. There's a constant, Sam Harris is one of the people who talks about having the continuous ongoing moral conversation. In other contexts, that sort of thing is called the dialectic. It's just the constant ongoing cultural conversation we're having with each other about things. And we have that about morality, and that's I think, where our morality comes from. Or at least how our morality is determined, how particular principles and ideals are determined to be moral or immoral, to be positive or negative, etc. It's just a very complicated thing. There is no one standard you can appeal to. There is no one absolute standard of morality that you can appeal to and say, aha, this tells us how to live. We have to work that out for ourselves. And where are we going? I don't know. I think after I'm done with this video, I'm going to go to Wendy's and try one of those pretzel bunned cheeseburgers. That looks good. I don't know. Where are you going? Nuno1001, Steve, considering your feelings towards Superman and Batman, what do you think of the idea of them supposedly crossing over in the next film in 2015? And Adderall Apocalypse also asked about my thoughts about the upcoming Superman Batman movie. As an idea, I think it's great. I mean, obviously, I said in the previous video in this series that my dream job as a comic book writer would be to write a Superman Batman team up book. I mean, I love Superman and Batman together, world's finest. I think that's just great shit. But I didn't like Man of Steel at all. I mean, I didn't think it was a very good movie. The more I think about it, the less I like it, and the more troubled I am by it as a film. So I'm not optimistic, but I'm hopeful. I mean, I have sort of a naive hope that, or a wish maybe. I would wish that it would be good. I don't want it to be a shitty movie. I want it to be a great movie, and I hope it will be. I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, you have a great concept. You have Superman and Batman coming together. I mean, it worked for the Avengers, the superhero mashup, the team up movie. It could be, if they do it and it's fun and it has some cleverness and some wit and some drama and some character and some excitement and like it's a reason for existing, derived from its story as opposed to just being a giant marketing opportunity. I mean, it could be great. But if it turns out like Man of Steel, it could be horrible. I hope it's not horrible. Hey, guess what? It's time for
the lightning round. Rapid fire questions, glib and adequate answers.
My Thousand Faces, what is your Justice League dream team? Limit to 7 members. Okay, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Flash, and Captain Marvel. Terry James, are sports fans any less nerdy than Star Trek fans? No. And in many cases, sports fans are way, way, way nerdier and more obsessed with their chosen subject than Star Trek fans are, or comic book fans or anything. Sports nerds are the most socially acceptable form of nerd in our culture because they have somehow convinced people that they're not actually nerds when they're the biggest fucking nerds that there are in many cases. Practical Magic 9, what is your favorite beverage? That would be a delicious piping hot cup of 8 o'clock coffee. Winner and loser. Hello, Steve. Have you ever heard or read an argument in favor of truth of some religious belief that you could not refute on the spot or still can't? No. Varmint Coyote, what is your favorite version of the Joker? I would probably say the Joker from Alan Moore's Killing Joke. I love the way he's written, and I also love the way Brian Boland draws him in that. It's just absolutely a wonderful Killing Joke, one of my favorite Batman comics, period. That would probably be my favorite version. Although Heath Ledger did great in Dark Knight, too. Secular Heathen. Question. Steve, if you could study under any figure throughout history, who would it be and why? Also, for the sake of this question, consider study under to mean more like an apprentice type role rather than as a student in a classroom. For me, I would pick Richard Feynman. I look forward to your selection. Oh, it's tough. I want to say Carl Sagan, but I would probably rather it be Thomas Paine. Bald to Bits. Question. What book do you think is crying out for a film treatment, and who would you want to direct it? I remember reading Jurassic Park in 1900, I think you probably mean 1990, and frozen to death and thinking it would make a wonderful film when CGI was up to it and that Spielberg would have to direct. The only prophecy I have ever made that came true. The book I would love to see made into a film. It was actually optioned. It was in development for a while, although I think it's been it's in turnaround now. I think it's not doing anything, but it's The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. That's just an awesome book. And who would I want to direct it? I don't know. Maybe who directed Wonder Boys? Was it Curtis Hanson? He did a good job with that. He might be good. Or Paul Thomas Anderson. I think Paul Thomas Anderson could be good. Finally, Atheist Bob. Steve, does absolute truth exist? I have absolutely no idea. And I think that is probably the most honest answer I can give to that question. So let's do a shout out here before we get out of here. The shout out this week, very well deserved, very long overdue, because I've been watching this guy's stuff for a while, wanting to give him a shout out, and I've finally gotten off my ass, figuratively speaking, of course, and given him a shout out, and it's Veridical Cadence. Veridical Cadence's YouTube channel is excellent. There's some awesome science content, and he also deals with Christian apologetics. He's made some videos answering the presuppositional argument, made some call-outs to Cy Ten Bruggencate, etc. And actually, he has a debate scheduled with Cy on the Bible-thumping Wingnut show, the same forum I visited when I had my exchange with Cy. And Veridical Cadence will be on the Bible-thumping Wingnut show on August 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8/7 Central. And that should be a lot of fun. And also on his channel you can see his videos about the nature of consciousness. He has a series that he does called Rational Bible Study, where he looks at passages from the Bible and talks about them skeptically. And it's just a really good channel. So check out Veridical Cadence. That's the shout out for this week. And don't forget to check out the Bible Thumping Wingnut show on August 4th to see him and Cy Ten Bruggencate. That should be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to catch that. So that is it for this week. Thank you guys so much, as always, for watching. Please leave a comment on this video. Ask me your question for next time. You have to do that, because if you don't, if nobody does, I won't be able to do this next week. And I really want to do this, because these videos are really easy to do. And they're a lot of fun. And they give me a chance to talk about stuff that I wouldn't ordinarily have a chance to talk about. So leave a comment on this video. Ask me a question for next week. Any topic, any tone, any subject, whatever. Nothing is off limits. Anything you want to know, anything you want to know my opinion on, you want to hear me talk about, whatever, ask me anything, and I will answer as many of them next time as I possibly can. Until next time, I will see you. Take care. Have a good one. That's it. Bye.